What's up, duelists? Today we've got a very special video for you. But first, Rise of Edison is this weekend. It's in a couple days. Sign up start on June 4th. We're going to be doing a hype live stream to get ready for the event Friday evening. And then Saturday, Sunday, we will also be streaming the event live on twitch.tv/Edison Yu-Gi-Oh! Also, if you guys want to partake in this event, it's absolutely free. There's a ton of prizes. The prize pool's actually gotten bigger since we last announced it. The Discord link to join the tournament will be in the description below this video. I'm joined by James. What's up, James?
What's up? And I'm glad we told everyone about Rise of Edison because this video is directly about what we predict to happen this weekend.
Yes, exactly, James. We've got our top 10 predictions today. You've picked 5. I've picked 5. You don't even know my 5, do you?
No, I'm in the dark.
Absolutely in the dark, face down attack position. Um, let's just hop right into this. Do you want to start with
Sure.
your number 5? Let me fade this little boy
I'll
in.
start with my number 5.
Fade it in.
And for my number
Boom.
5, that's a Gladiator Beast Geyserist right there, but in my little list, I just wrote it down as new GB builds because look, Geisty did well at the last tournament with GB. I think GB is obviously a fan favorite deck, especially like returning players. You played GB back in the day. You enjoyed playing GB this format because they were pretty strong. And you come back to the format. What are you going to play? GB. But I feel like all the GB builds that like we play on the channel, that people play in the Discord, they're all kind of the same. They're like Prisma, they're Cat, whatever. But I liked that Geist really shook things up with Dark Bribe and Icarus Attack. And I think that there's a lot of directions that you could go triple main deck Wabaku, you could have Smashing Grounds, you could have all this different stuff. And I think that maybe the truth is that the best GB build is yet to be fully unearthed. And
Facts.
I think we might see a few interesting ones this weekend.
Well, I'm in agreement with you there. I think it's really cool how Gladiator Beasts can adapt to certain metagames. And now that we're starting to get like a little baby metagame going from Edison Legends and from Rise of Edison, I think it's going to be cool to see how people adapt their Gladiator Beast builds to sort of combat what they know is gonna be happening. You know what I mean? Like maybe they have something more for
Exactly.
Blackwings since it won the last event. In any case, my number 5 is it's a little bit of a hot take. I'm gonna be honest. It's a card that like if it did something this weekend, right? I would want it to be on this list because it's a very very good card. It has yet to see a lot of utilization in Edison, but I've played a little bit with a Rescue Cat deck that includes it. It's Smoke Grenade of the Thief. I think that Trap Dust Shoot is
Is
one.
this cap?
This is not cap. This is absolutely zero cap. Well,
This is
here's the
no
thing.
cap?
This is a high variance pick for me. This is my only high variance pick. The other 4 picks I'm pretty serious about. But this one is like this card might not be in a single deck list this weekend, but this card also might win the event. That's kind of where I'm at on it. I think it's one of the most powerful effects that you can really utilize on turn 1 in this
How would you
format.
use this card, Keegan? Give people some intel.
So you have a couple different ways to really utilize it. You have Power Tool Dragon, which is a generic synchro that can tutor it out. Being able to tutor confiscations is really good. It's really strong. You've got cards like Gear Freed, of course, from GOAT format that automatically trigger it, and you've got Breaker the Magical Warrior at 3, which I think is a very solid card. Those are a few like easy ways to trigger it, but of course you've got your own Space Typhoons, Heavy Storm, that sort of stuff, and just resolving a confiscation effect in this format where card advantage is very difficult to come by. A lot of decks need 1 or 2 pieces to get their deck going. It can be really backbreaking. So we'll see how it performs or if it performs at all this weekend. But
I
that's
will be very impressed to see this, but I would love to see it. I think it is a strong effect, and it could be really interesting to see people experiment with it.
facts. Moving on to your number 4, our number 7, 8-ish. What did you have for that, James?
For that slot, I had a card known as Deck Devastation Virus. Now, this is a card I don't think it's a unknown card. A lot of people were experimenting it in the side decks of Blackwing, even in Diva decks that can make Catasta really easily. I've been using it in the side deck of the Value deck, which seems like kind of a natural home for it. But anything playing triple Kais, I think you could make the case that you could play it. But then even if you just have like one or two more, whether it's Diva or just easy ways to make level fives, like stuff like that. Not to mention you could even side in packages like Sirocco's. But this card is just so strong against plants, a lot of the like Synchro Cat type decks. It's good against certain frog variants. I would say not the best against Frog Monarch, but pretty good against like Diva Frog and things like that. And when it goes off, it's just a complete blowout. You saw that game against Jazz on the channel. And I've really been impressed with this card by playing it. And I think we're going to see some nasty stuff on stream from this card.
Facts. I think this card, it falls right in line with that sort of trap dust shoot sort of effect, that sort of rip cards out of the hand, but it does even more. If you can support this card, you should definitely be playing it this weekend. Really, really strong card. My number 4 is, kind of a weird one, but it's Battle Fader. I think decks are gonna start playing more Battle Faders. In the last event, we saw these hyper aggressive decks. We saw decks like Blackwings with Dark Bribe. We saw decks like Dragons with 0 trap cards, like trying to OTK you, trying to just like push in as much as possible. The absolute 0 decks, they're trying to like Heavy Storm and then Miracle Fusion a couple times, do big chunks of damage. I think decks that normally don't even play Battle Fader, decks like maybe, Blackwings, maybe even like Quick Draw. I'm pretty sure that you could honestly slot a Battle Fader or two in the sideboard of any deck, and it wouldn't be the worst pick, just to protect you from those Heavy Storm OTKs or those Giant Trunade OTKs or big pushes. What do you think about this one, James?
I could see it in any deck that's like trying to synchro. And I know that for a while, people like right when Battle Fader first came out, there was kind of a package people would side deck against Lightsworn specifically with like triple Fader, triple Roar, or something like that. So maybe I don't know, you could build a side deck really dedicated to one specific matchup that Fader would have a lot of utility in. But yeah, I mean, countered by Deck Devastation Virus, my number 4, so I can't co-sign it too
It
much.
is, look, it is countered by Deck Devastation Virus if it's in your hand. However, if you have a Sangan in play and they activate Deck Devastation Virus, you get to search
That's
your Battle Fader and all of a sudden you're safe. You're chilling, at least for one turn.
true.
So I think it's a powerful card. I think it's sort of a really really niche tempo play that's immune to Heavy Storm, and I think we'll definitely see more of this as the format gets more aggressive. What do you have for your number 3, James?
My number 3, I believe, is Upstart Goblin. Uh, this card is a controversial card if there ever was one. I think starting in like 2012 or 2013 was when people really started using like 3 of this card in every deck. And it had been played a little bit in like hard combo before that. But typically when people go revisit old retro formats, I think there's always this kind of scramble of like, oh, everyone playing at the time totally overlooked this like super powerful card. What happened with Trap Dust Shoot, happened with Solemn Judgment, and I think Upstart Goblin often falls into those categories as well. So when people are like, I bet I could make a better deck than the tournament results from back then, Upstart Goblin is like front and center, the first card they include. And in Edison format, I sort of have mixed feelings on that because I think compared to a lot of other formats, there's every deck has some sort of weird like chip damage element, whether it's like a lot of decks playing Caius or Drill Warriors or other weird incidental burn or just ways to do burst damage that Upstart can kind of conflict with. But by the same token, I mean, I think 4 or 5 out of the top 8 deck lists in the last tournament all remaining three Upstarts. So it clearly can be successful. And for me, I played it in Dragons, a deck that I feel like really needs to find its power cards. And I think that as much as you try to deny it or come up with reasons why, like, oh, it's going to prevent you from this game shot, it's going to blank this, it's going to do this, it's going to give them more turns, you know, seeing your power cards faster is going to give you an advantage in a lot of matchups. And it's just a fact. And I think that it'd be foolish to underrate it. So I don't really see the trend of Upstart dying down soon. I just hope people will pick their spots a little better.
Yeah, for sure. I think in some decks when you have ridiculous cards like Future Fusion, Black Whirlwind, even most decks are playing Trap Dust Shoot, and just seeing those
Right.
cards early in the game before they're dead and having that extra percentage to see them, it can be huge. It can be tournament winning. So we're
Totally.
probably for sure gonna see some number of Upstart Goblin this weekend in the top decks, and I'm in complete agreement with everything you said. Um,
Hell yeah.
my number three is Starlight Road. It's a card
Ooh,
that,
good pick.
yeah, it's a card that we've seen fall in and out of favor, right? And one thing I like about Starlight Road is that in decks that can often struggle to to like make big advantage, and decks that can often struggle to like um have that sort of special summon pressure, you can play in a way to initiate situations where your Starlight Road's going to be active, right? Like you can summon two monsters into a Mirror Force or a Torrential, and then all of a sudden your Starlight Road not only becomes like this weird solemn judgment, but it also becomes like a very serious win condition, and it like doubles your clock, and like this card is like, I honestly think you could potentially even like build a deck around it somehow. But that's going off the deep end of insanity. I think it's just a great card. I think it's underutilized, especially if we're gonna see more of these like triple Icarus attack decks, like guys black not Black Wings, but Gladiator Beasts and Topher 702's Black Wings. And if we are going to see more of this breakout Absolute Zero deck, one of the best ways to counter Absolute Zero sweeper effect is with Starlight Road. So um, I think this is just a fantastic card. What are your thoughts on Starlight Road, James?
Yeah, I was really impressed personally with playing Starlight Road in the last tournament. I feel like I had kind of slept on it for a while, but even a very good player has a pretty good chance of falling into Starlight Road. And if they've seen it once, then it makes them play in an awkward way in game two and three. And I also thought it was really telling that Topher, who won the tournament, um, a huge rationale for his playing the two Dark Bribes, which people thought was a pretty, unconventional pick. But in the deck profile that he did, he just repeatedly was like, I just want to counter Starlight Road. And I feel like not only were people not playing it so much before that, but people weren't even giving it the respect it deserved as to like, no, like if you're playing this deck that revolves around, resolving Icarus attacks, you could say, then you really do need to make sure that you have ways to play through that. So I also wouldn't be surprised, more cards like Seven Tools or Dust Tornado, sorry, just to throw in more curveball picks. But I could see something like that also counter Starlight Road.
Yes, yes. It's a crazy card because it creates this whole metagame on its own. But I think at the end of the day, it's such a powerful card. If you can initiate those situations where you resolve it, getting a free Stardust Dragon and like a Solemn Judgment, essentially on one of your opponent's best cards, is that's just a ridiculous effect. So,
Yeah, it's not.
in the bottom half of our predictions, I'd say we're looking pretty good. We're looking pretty good. We're gonna head into the top four. But before we head into the top four, I want to remind you guys to smash like and subscribe. We're trying to hit 1,000 subscribers. Tell them, James. Tell the people.
Trying to hit 3,000
We're
subscribers.
trying to hit
Um,
5 billion subscribers. It's not even a real number. Five
pick
jillion.
number two, pick number two
Pick
for
number
me
two for James.
was now you're going to look at this and say, hey, this is bottomless trap hole. That's already a card that's played at two of in a lot of main boards. Well, joke's on you because my pick is actually less bottomless trap hole than ever. Um,
Oh shit.
Yeah, Keegan, you didn't even see that one coming.
No, that
Um,
was a surprise to
you think I'm over
even
here just to be like,
me.
oh, I think people are gonna play a lot of bottomless trapple. No, wrong. I think that Topher was onto something with a slim down trap lineup that he won with last time, which featured no bottomless trap hole. He replaced it with one Book of Moon and one compulsory. Can't really speak to those decisions, but I think that there is a reason why bottomless trap hole in a lot of other formats is regarded as like one of the weaker one for one trap cards that you could play. And that's because it's like reactive and limited in what it hits, especially in this format where there's all sorts of stuff like Hard Trooper or Flip Monsters that can beat you down. So I think that bottomless trap hole is like bad enough on the play against certain matchups. Look, we all know it's insane against Blackwing, against like, but even against something like Synchro Cat, it's like kind of weird, you know? So look, I just think that there may be a better way. And as this format micro metagame continues to develop, I'm not sure. I mean, I just think that someone might step out of line and say, "Hey, no more bottomless trap hole. We're done with you. We don't need you. Only
Bottomless trap
sideway.
hole is canceled. You heard it here
Cancel."
first on the Ed and Edison channel. Um, I might be inclined to agree with you. I think bottomless trap hole is particularly weak against most decks.
Wow.
It's only really good against Blackwings. I mean, the other decks are
Good in
gonna
squads. It's pretty good in squads.
yeah, it's good against Glads on the
But it's
play.
like only the
On the
play,
play.
It's like fine. Yeah.
Look, that's the thing. It's only good on the play. You gotta keep it a stack, dude. You can't be lying to the people. Bottomless trap hole. If they go summon Laquari set 5, and you have bottomless trap hole in your hand, guess what that is? That's a dead card. That's a -1, baby. That's what I
Dead
like.
freaking card.
Exactly. So, I don't know. I think we'll see more of bottomless trap hole moving to the side. Completely agree. I do not think we will see it in the main deck. When you had it as your number 2 on the list, James, I was a little worried. I was a little
You did a
worried.
double take. Your head spun around like a cartoon character over there. Yeah,
I,
I know
I
how it is.
it blown brain emoji, honestly. But
Yeah.
if I'm gonna be real, now that you've clarified that we are canceling bottomless trap hole, I can only
Bottomless
agree.
trap hole is canceled.
I can
Pardon me.
only agree. My number 2 pick is a very, very dangerous, powerful card. Fossil Dyna,
Ooh, I knew this guy
Pachycephalo.
would be on here.
You knew he would be on my list. You knew how I feel about this card. This card is fucking stupid good. It's got a built-in dark hole, like for special summon monsters. That's like, honestly, like that effect alone would see play. But the fact that on the front side, it's a fucking Vanity's Fiend, that's just crazy to me. Like, you can summon this card against some decks and set like 2 or 3 trap cards, and the game will just end. Like some decks, like Frog Monarchs, Diva Frogs, these decks, if you go turn 1 Cyber Dragon Fossil Dyna, these decks will lose to that a good percentage of the time. And that's just scary as shit. On top of that, I think this card is fantastic because not only does it prevent stuff, but in late game, unlike cards like Trap Dust Shoe or Bottomless Trap Hole, when you top deck them in the late game, Fossil Dino is actually a great top deck. It gets you out of really bad situations where maybe you're facing down lethal, like 2 synchro monsters, or like a dark armed that with no darks engrave, or like a field of like Red Eyes, White Knight, like this sort of thing. Fossil Dyna digs you out of some holes where you normally no other card could do it. And I think because it's so good at like locking people out, and it's also a really good top deck in the mid to late game, I think this card's just fantastic. I think we're gonna see a lot more of it moving forward. What do you think about this card, James?
Super solid card. A lot of decks could side it if they wanted to even decks and special summon a lot. I think it's awesome. The fish deck has a hard time with it if it's protected well. I think it's a great card.
Facts, bro. Now before we hop into the number 1 pick, I've got to tell the people something. James, you did not know my top 5 going into this. And of course, I knew your top 5 because
Absolutely not.
I had to arrange this lovely little image that we're looking at here. But
Yeah, I could
we
never have done this.
we we've been spending some time together. We've been making some videos. Our minds are psychically connected because we picked
Yes.
we picked the same thing for number 1. which is
We're that sure about this pick.
actually kind of crazy to even think about. We picked Judgment Dragon, but more importantly, Lightsworn as our number one pick. James, tell me a little bit about why this is the number one pick.
Well, look, there's like a handful of decks that just haven't really had the results in these tournaments, and I don't really know why. And among those, front and center, first and foremost, head of the pack is Lightsworn to me. And like Lightsworn variants, I think in the actual Edison top 16 were like one of the most represented decks. So it really is strange that um, people would just ignore it when they come back if they're trying to play this format. I get like back in the day, Lightsworn was always kind of like notoriously helmet deck or like Luxac deck, whatever. But kind of numbers don't lie, and they were just so dominant for so long. Numbers don't lie in the form of Judgment Dragon's stats and overall effect. Um, it's very good. Honest is very good, and like the deck's just a monster when it gets going. And I think it's deceptively kind of difficult to play correctly. Um, and maybe getting the side deck figured out. Maybe there's similar stuff to the Gladiator Beast deck, like maybe there's some ratios or different kind of builds that need to change. But I just think the deck is insane, and there's no way it could go another tournament without being represented at the top tables in some way.
Facts. I think this deck, unlike some other decks in the format, I think this is the best Cold Wave deck in the format. And I've said time and time again, I think Cold Wave is one of the best cards in the format. I think it's like top 3 easily. This is also like you can play the best cards to their fullest effect in this deck and maximize it. Like cards like Mirror Force, your opponent never sees it coming out of Lightsworn. They can't really afford to play around it. Game 2, they're like conflicted about leaving in their heavy storms and stuff. Your Mirror Force, it's always going to protect your guy who's milling. This is one of the best card trooper decks. This is one of the best Raikou decks because you have Celestia to convert your Raikou into further advantage. I think it's just a phenomenal deck, and I agree with you. I think it is a little bit difficult to play correctly, but if you just overload it with powerful cards, Cold Wave Judgment Dragon is one of, if not the best thing you can be doing in this format, hands down. Completely agree.
For sure. I mean, if every deck is playing, I mean, not every deck, but a lot of other Raikou decks are playing Charge just for the search and the mill. Like, Charge is 6 million times better in Lightsworn than any other deck.
Exactly. It plays all the best cards to their fullest extent. Like Honest, like you mentioned earlier. I think this is one of the best Plague Spreader decks. Like just a really, really good deck overall. That's going to wrap up our top 10. If you guys have top 10 predictions, leave a comment below. Leave your top 10 comments. I'd like to
Leave
see.
a comment below, or better yet, just prove it in the tournament. Keep it to yourself and surprise us with some insane deck.
Exactly. We'd love to see you this weekend in the Rise of Edison tournament. Smash like, subscribe. Peace.